Hello, everyone. My name is William Carabell. I'm a senior here at DePaul studying public relations and advertising. And today I'm going to be talking to you about Icewine, or as it's more commonly known as Icewine. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. So what exactly is Icewine? Icewine is a dessert wine that is made from grapes that once are ripened, are frozen on the vine and then harvested by hand and pressed while they are still frozen. The freezing process causes a very high concentration of alcohol and sugars to form in the grapes, since most of the water freezes off during the freezing process. And due to the grapes losing most of their water during the freezing process, ice wine batches are very small with yields of only 10 to 20% of what a similar grape harvest would yield in terms of wine. So let's say a Chardonnay batch, if they were frozen, would only yield about 10 to 20% of what a regular one would. And different countries have different temperature requirements at which the grapes must be frozen at, but all are around or below 20 degrees Fahrenheit or -7 degrees Celsius. And this frozen on the vine process is what makes iced wine unique. It has to be frozen on the vine and it has to reach those certain temperatures. Sometimes wineries will make what's called iced wine or icebox wine, which is not actual ice wine, but rather it's grapes that have already been harvested and then are frozen after the fact to kind of simulate that ice wine process, but these are not the same thing and are differentiated by law. So the main reason I chose ice wine was actually a little bit of a personal story here. My first winery experience, I was on a family trip up in Door County, Wisconsin, and we visited the Door 44 winery up there, and they had their own ice wine. And actually, the ice wine was one of the first wines that I ever tasted at a real winery. It definitely was a unique experience, nothing like I'd ever tasted in any other wine before. It's very sweet, almost tastes like a pop, or if someone dumped a couple packets of sugar in apple juice, it's very sweet. But it also has some other unique flavors to it, at least this one did. Kind of had a gasoline flavor to it, almost like a scotch or whiskey, kind of that like sting to it. And then also some like vegetable leafy notes to it as well. It kind of tasted like arugula a little bit. So definitely a unique wine tasting experience. And if you ever get the chance, I definitely would give ice wine a shot. Grape varieties used for ice wine. Honestly, any different kind of grape can be used. Or I shouldn't say that. Any grape variety that grows well in the cold is usually used, but any grape variety can be used. The most common grape varieties used are Cabernet Franc, Riesling, Gewürztraminer, and Vidal Blanc. And based on the grapes that are used, ice wine can either be a red or a white wine. For example, if they use Riesling grapes, it's going to be a white. If they use Cabernet Franc, it's going to be a red. The white wine or the white ice wines usually have kind of a golden amber color, kind of like apple juice. And the reds usually have like a tawnyish red, rubyish color, almost like a cranberry juice, but more orangey. Some history behind ice wine and where it's grown today. It was first made in the Franken or Franconia region of Germany in 1794. Some farmers went out to their fields one day and found that an early frost had frozen all of their grapes. So rather than just let the grapes go to waste, they decided to press them. And they found that these pressed grapes had a very high alcohol and sugar content and tasted nothing like any other wine any of them had experienced ever before. So the vintage that year kind of went around the local area, and as more people tried it, they loved it. And by the early to mid 1800s, it was being mass produced in the Rheingau region and has been made the same way ever since. Those grapes freeze on the vine and then they press them. Today, Canada is the world's largest producer of ice wine, mostly due to their colder climate and more regular winters. So they can kind of predict when it'll be cold so they can let those grapes freeze more regularly. In fact, the largest producer in Canada is Ontario, and about 90% of all the ice wines in Canada come from that region. In the United States, most of the ice wine is made in northern Michigan, also around the Great Lakes area where it's colder with a climate similar to Canada. They can kind of predict those winters a little bit better. But it honestly could be made anywhere in the world as long as the conditions are right. Occasionally in Japan, they'll make it if they get an early winter up in the mountains and the grapes freeze. Same thing goes for France, especially in the Alsace region. If they get an early winter and some of the grapes happen to freeze while they're ripe, then they'll make it. But most of the time they don't count on it just because the winters usually don't come until later in the year. And by then, most of the grapes have been harvested. Some ice wine brands that you can find. Honestly, prices depend on the vintage style and bottle size. Most of the ice wine you're going to find is going to come in a half bottle, so 375 milliliters, or in quarter bottles, which is 187.5 milliliter bottles. You can find full bottles, but usually they're very expensive or nearly impossible to find. Either way, you're going to spend at least $30 on a half bottle. The only thing I saw under $30 was a quarter bottle, but everything else was above $30 for a bottle, and most of them were half bottles. Some highly rated ice wine is the Inniskillen Vidal Icewine, which is a Vidal Blanc white ice wine, 2018 vintage for about $50 a bottle, and that is a half bottle, and that is from the Niagara Peninsula region in Ontario. This one you can find on Binny's website, and they will ship it to you, so definitely want to try if you're interested. The most expensive one I could find was the Egon Muller Schwarzberger Riesling ice wine, which is a 2012 vintage, and that goes for about $1,800 a bottle. So that is a full bottle. Like I said, the full bottles are much more expensive, and this is an older vintage, and that is from the Moselle region in Germany. I could not find this anywhere in the United States. The only place I saw it was on a wine auction website. That was the only place I could find it. Unless I was going to order it from the winery direct, but they didn't even have a price listed for it on the winery. So I can't imagine what they're charging for it. However, the affordable ice wines, the best one I could find was the Jackson Triggs Reserve Vidal Ice Wine, which is a 2018 vintage, and what I'll be tasting today. That goes for about $22 to $27 a bottle, and that is a quarter bottle, so part of the reason why the price is so low. And this is also from the Niagara Peninsula region in Ontario, and also a Vidal Blanc, so it is a white ice wine. And yeah, best bang for your buck here. It is a smaller bottle, but it's so sweet. You really don't need anything more than this, and it is a dessert wine, so 1 or 2 glasses and you're good to go. One thing to watch out for, again, like I said before, is the iced wine or icebox wine knockoffs. They are usually placed on the shelves right next to the ice wine. Like when I went to my local wine store, there was icebox and iced wine on either side of the Jackson Triggs, so it can be a little tricky. Just make sure when you're looking for it, it says ice wine. Pairings for this, I would pair this with any fruity, creamy, like heavy dessert, like maybe a cheesecake, cherry pie, or peach cobbler, something like that. Something fruit heavy and forward. The compliments from the fruitiness of the ice wine would go great with any of this. Or if you were doing like a charcuterie board, anything that's like a soft cheese, like a brie, Stilton, maybe even a blue cheese, even though it's a little heavier, the acidity and the sweetness would cut nicely through that. But again, the thing to keep in mind with this is it's very, very sweet, almost like an apple juice or like a pop. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and here is the evaluation. So the Jackson Triggs Reserve Vidal Ice Wine, 2018 vintage. It is a clear golden amber color, kind of looks like apple juice. Probably going to be smelling some green fruits, stone fruits, and tropical fruits. So apple, nectarines, lychee, things like that. It's going to be very sweet, medium-high acidity, no tannins present since it's a white, medium to high body, and a very long finish, mostly due to the sugar. And again, like I said, apple, apricot, nectarines, those green and stone fruits, and very sweet. And again, you can't beat this for the price. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and give it a taste. So here it is. This is, like I said, looks just like apple juice out of the bottle. Do a little swish for you guys. Very syrupy. It's kind of like somebody poured maple syrup in a apple juice. The nose, again, those green fruits right off the bat, I'm getting apple, nectarines, apricots, kind of citrusy, but not so citrusy like a lemon or a lime. Very, very, I guess I would say the nose is light to medium intensity. And here we go for the palate. very sweet. Sugars, it kind of sits in the roof of your mouth and gets stuck on your teeth. The acidity is also very high, kind of burns your tongue a little bit. Alcohol is lingering in the back of my throat, kind of warming me up a little bit. Very long finish. Still on the tip of my tongue. It's almost kind of got like a sour finish to it with the nectarines there and the apricots, but I think most of that is just the sugar. Yeah, very sweet. Brown sugar notes in there as well. The acidity, this would go great. Yeah, like I said, great with a brie cheese, cheese and crackers, a charcuterie board, even some smoked meats, like salami or prosciutto or something like that with it. The acidity and the sweetness will cut very nicely through something salty. You really wouldn't pair this with dinner or anything like that because it's so sweet and it is a dessert wine. So definitely keep that in mind. And again, it's outstanding for the price. You can't beat $22 for a half or a quarter bottle. And since it is a dessert wine, that's all you really need. Thank you so much. And please leave any questions in the comments below. Have a great day.